Welcome, friends, enemies, and everyone in between, to my channel, The Masked Mormon. I am, in fact, the Masked Mormon.
Why you wearing a mask? Were you burned by acid or something like that?
Oh no, it's just they're terribly comfortable. I think everyone will be wearing them in the future.
I am a formerly believing Mormon who likes to talk about various aspects of Mormonism on the internet with you fine viewers. Today, I'm going to do something a little bit different and not talk about Mormonism directly. But before I do that, I wanted to let you know that I recently appeared on the Latter Daily Digest podcast with Gene and Randy. Now, this was a lot of fun, and I really appreciate them having me on their show. I suggest you check out the interview. Now, this was on top of a pretty busy week for me, and has prevented me from finishing the writing for the video I was intending for this week. So, I will be covering that soon as I finish it. But one of the things that I do on top of being an engineer, hitting the gym, being a husband and father, is that I do Toastmasters. Toastmasters is a public speaking club where a person has opportunities to improve their public speaking skills. Now, I have always loved public speaking, but I haven't always had much of an outlet to do it. Mormonism did give me several opportunities through the years. In fact, I have made some videos on a couple of the talks I gave at church. But it isn't like they would let me do that now. As a side note, if you ever want to work on your own public speaking skills, there's likely a Toastmasters club in your own area. At my most recent meeting, I gave a speech on some of my own current philosophical underpinnings that I now base my life on after Mormonism. So it doesn't deal with Mormonism directly, but my deconstruction from Mormonism has led me to the place where I sit, at least for the moment. But before I get into the speech itself, just to give you some background, the purpose of this speech was as a little bit of a motivational speech. Whew. Have you ever asked yourself, does anything I do even matter? Is there even a purpose to all of this? What if I were to tell you that no, nothing matters, and there is no grand purpose to anything? Oof. That sounds kind of bleak and depressing. I thought this was supposed to be a motivational speech. Well, there is a philosophy of life called nihilism. This is a philosophy that life is without intrinsic value, meaning, or even purpose. This is a philosophy that can result in a sense of despair and depression, or maybe even cynicism. Pure nihilism can lead to a lot of psychological harm. I am not a nihilist. No, I am an optimistic nihilist. Optimistic nihilism is the ability for a person to create their own meaning after they accept that the universe is ultimately meaningless. Now, there is a picture that makes me laugh. It is a picture of one of the victims of Pompeii. It is a skeleton with a large rock dropped on their head. Now, like I said, this is a picture that kind of makes me laugh. It's almost comical in its cartoonishness and its ridiculousness. Granted, 2,000 years ago, this was the site of personal drama and terror. Now, they say that comedy is tragedy plus time. Well, this is certainly that. We don't know anything about this person, what they did, what they were like. In fact, if this rock didn't fall on their head Wile E. Coyote style, we likely wouldn't even know that they existed. But this person had struggles, successes, good days and bad days, until they had this one really bad day. But from our perspective, there is little difference if they had this rock fall on their head or if they lived a few more decades. From where we now sit, they would still be dead and gone, either way. Everything that ever mattered to them is long gone, evaporated into the mists of time. And so it will be for us, hopefully without a rock falling on our heads. Within a generation or two after we're gone, no one will have any living memory of us. A few nameless pictures may be the only evidence that we ever were. One day, the matter that builds my body will return to the earth. The energy that comprises my conscious mind will dissipate and return to the universe as heat. But how is this empowering? How is this supposed to be inspiring? Well, our bodies are made primarily of hydrogen, oxygen, carbon, and nitrogen. These elements are billions of years old. The hydrogen in our bodies was born out of the Big Bang, the creation of the universe itself. The other elements in our bodies were forged in the hearts of long dead stars via nuclear fusion. Those stars then spewed their elemental guts out into the universe as stardust. That stardust then accumulated when our world formed. Some of that stardust then got wet. And then that wet stardust became conscious. That haunted, soggy stardust is us. It's dead material that became alive. The universe is ultimately indifferent to anything. It existed long before we ever existed and will exist for a long time after we're gone. But we are still a part of that universe. The universe has become conscious through us. Through us, the universe gets to experience itself, at least for a little while. Now, picture a wave on the ocean. You can see it. You can measure it. Its height, the way the sunlight reflects off its surface as it passes through, and it's there, and you can see it, and you know what it is. It's a wave. And then it crashes into the shore, and it's gone. But the water's still there. The wave was just a different way for the water to be for a little while. Now, this is a conception of existence for Buddhists. The wave returns to the ocean where it came from and where it's supposed to be. Now, we are each a wave on the ocean, a way for the water to be for a little while. And that, my fellow Toastmasters and guests, is the key. The universe has no ultimate purpose beyond the fact that it just is. Similarly, for our lives, there's no imposed purpose. There are no universal principles to live by. So, we get to choose our own purpose and the values that we're going to live by. This is kind of an ultimate freedom. This can be an empowering view, allowing people to determine and embrace their own purpose. But you might ask, isn't that just hedonism? Well, I guess it could be, because yes, we should eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow we will die. But again, we are here now. For the moment, we can make a difference in the lives of those around us. Will that eventually fade into history? Yes. But think for a second about the parable of the starfish. One morning after a big storm, a man was walking along the beach that was littered with starfish. The man saw a boy feverishly throwing starfish back into the ocean. The man asked the boy why he was doing this. The boy replied that when the sun gets high, they will die unless I throw them back into the water. The man said, "There must be tens of thousands of starfish. I'm afraid you won't make much of a difference." Now, as the boy leaned down and picked up another starfish and threw it into the ocean, he replied, "It made a difference to that one." We have the potential for positive change in the world, but it can be daunting in the face of massive social problems. But a single, ordinary person can make a little difference. And if you add together a lot of single, ordinary people, they can ultimately make a big difference. Additionally, in keeping with some of the water metaphors, if you pick up a stone and throw it into a still lake, waves will ripple out, reaching things far away from where the stone was thrown. True, the ripples will eventually die away, returning the lake to its state of calm. But that doesn't change the fact that for a time, those ripples were there. So no, I don't believe that there's a purpose to our lives, which means that we are free to choose what meaning we want to have. There's no one coming to save us from ourselves. But like I said, this is ultimate freedom. You get to choose. You get to define your own purpose. and you get to find meaning for yourself. And that's what's so optimistic about it. But I want you to remember not to get too stressed out about things. Answer me this. How stressed out were you 100 years ago? How worried about things do you think you'll be 100 years from now? Keeping perspective is key, just like with our Pompeii friend. So what purpose do I personally believe in? I think the purpose of our lives is actually to learn how to love and how to build memories in people that will continue long after our own wave returns to the ocean, after our ripples return to the calm lake, after the part of the universe that we are stops being aware of itself. We are to make the best out of the little time that we get for ourselves and for those around us. There's a lot of suffering in the world, and I think another part of our purpose is to alleviate at least a little bit of that suffering. Thank you. And there it is, my thoughts on optimistic nihilism. I touched on this topic in a video I did on what I believe now, but I went into more detail for this speech. But what are your thoughts? What gives you meaning and purpose now? Let me know down in the comments. And if you like what I do, please press the like button and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.